Hey guys, if you don't know who I am, my name is Ethan Hayes, and over the last 2 years, I've done well over 1 billion views organically with physical products, doing a business model called Organic Dropshipping. And within those 2 years, I've generated almost $1 million in sales through multiple different products and multiple different accounts. And I only say those things just so you understand if there's one thing I'm good at, it's content, especially when it comes to selling physical products through that content. So in today's video, I have took every single ounce of everything I know when it comes to short form content and put it all into one huge lesson. This video is gonna be basically a complete masterclass on short form content specifically for selling physical products. If you were to genuinely take in and master every single thing that I go over in this YouTube video, you'll very quickly go from never going viral or only going viral a few times when you get lucky every now and again to predictably going viral within just days of any product that you wanna run. And this lesson isn't gonna be some just get better at content type of video. This is gonna be as in-depth as I can possibly go with examples and covering every single part of what makes a good short form video. So with that being said, let's jump into it. First things first, let's do a quick overview of everything we're gonna cover in this lesson. And that's gonna be the 5 key components of constructing a good short form video. We're gonna break every single one of these down to a T plus examples. So first things first, of course, is your hook. And that's virtually just the text on screen and what you're visually seeing within the first 1 to 3 seconds of your video. The second thing is gonna be something barely anybody talks about, but actually is super underrated. And just by mastering this alone will 10x your content. That's gonna be progression. So that's basically the tempo / pace of your video. The third thing is gonna be visuals and background. So lighting, the environment you're in, and your props and setup. Fourth thing is gonna be controversy. So it's basically just a sneaky way of manipulating the consumer to engage with your post via comments and shares. We're also gonna break that down to a T. I'm gonna show you what good controversy is, what bad controversy is, what type of controversy you should use, and what type of controversy you shouldn't use. And then lastly, audios, which also play a huge role in your content, believe it or not. So that's just obviously the music or voice within your video. Now, let's move on to the good stuff, starting at hooks. Okay, so this is the visually what you're seeing within the first 1 to 3 seconds, so whatever is happening on screen, and the text on screen. So let's get into a text hook. Your text hook always needs to inflict some sort of emotion to pull the brain out of doom scrolling. You're gonna wanna make the viewer intrigued enough to wonder what's gonna happen next. So this is gonna be where they read it and what they're visually seeing, their brain automatically needs to be assuming something cool is gonna be coming next, or something scary is gonna be coming next, something sentimental is coming next, or something exciting is going to happen. A lot of you guys, you'll try to just make up random text hooks or maybe just copy text hooks without knowing why you're putting them there. So you wanna be really intentional and ask yourself when you put a text hook on screen or on your video, what part of emotion or what is this doing to the viewer once they see this? If they look at your text hook and it doesn't inflict any of these emotions we just went over, they're just immediately gonna scroll because there's no dopamine payoff for them in the end. So you need to literally hook them in, hence the name hook. So now let's get into your visual hook. That's gonna be what I like to call your scroll stopper. So, doing something really dramatic or really out of the ordinary that they're just not used to seeing, doing something crazy. And of course, a visual hook is gonna be much better understood seeing it. So I have a really good example or two of a good visual hook. But it can also be something very satisfying, very aesthetic, or very cool. And lastly, a what the fuck moment, something where somebody looks at it and they're like, literally, what am I even looking at? Now let's get into the nitty gritty for your visual and text hook. This is also something not very commonly talked about, but your text placement. Text placement is a big deal. 9 times out of 10, everything is always gonna perform better, and the best performing videos have their text in between the volume buttons, so on the lower or upper end of your volume buttons, and your power button. Having it lower on the screen, it normally makes the viewer shift their eyes away from what's actually visually happening more. So it just makes your text and visual hook combo a lot less strong. So almost always you'll wanna have your text more middle of screen or on that upper end of it. Next is going to be product placement. You always want to have your product centered in the middle of the screen, if not almost on that lower half. You don't want it to be cut off by your caption or the text on the bottom where it has your username and all that fun stuff. And you also don't want it to be cut off by the text hook. You want the text hook just barely hanging out right above the product. Third thing is gonna be emojis. A lot of people, they kind of look right by emojis, but they do matter and they can dictate whether the same words that you're putting on screen perform good or bad. It's literally in the name, emojis. emoticon. It inflicts a sort of emotion. So you also actually want to think and try and think about what emojis you're putting on your text hook to inflict whatever sort of emotion you're wanting to give the viewer. And lastly, I have here, negative will always beat positive. So, saying something like, and this is just a really quick example, but saying something like, oh, my mom hates my Christian art because she's atheist. That's super negative. That's also a huge inflicting emotion. Something like that compared to, oh, everybody loves my Ariana Grande shoes, or everybody loves my Taylor Swift shoes. That's positive. It's almost always not going to be nearly as strong as something negative. Now, before we move on to good and bad examples of text hooks and visual hooks, I want to give you the single best piece of advice that you will ever get when it comes to hooks. And it'll actually change the way that you create content from here on out. So normally, especially my beginners, when they go into crafting a video, they think, okay, what can I make? What's the video going to be about? What's the story? X, Y, and Z. But the thing is, the one thing that matters the very most in all of your content, and that's why it's the first thing we went over, is your hook. It doesn't matter how amazing your video is at second 5, 6, 8, or 20. If you cannot get people to stay until they can see that part, it doesn't matter, which is why your hook is the most valuable thing and the main thing that you should focus on with every single video you make. So knowing that, if you want to craft a great video, the very best thing you could do is actually create your text hook first. So what you'll do is come up with your text hook first, then you'll base your visual hook on the text hook, then you're going to base the rest of the video on that. So from here on out, I don't want you just coming up with an idea or a concept. I want you to create a really good text hook, whether you find it while you're scrolling, whether you come up with it on your own, whether you're replicating it from somebody else and maybe putting a spin on it. Before you create the video itself, I want you to think of the hook first, come up with the hook, and then base the rest of your video on that. Okay, so now let's get into a good example of a visual and text hook. Now, as you can see, obviously, the girl is sitting here crying. We don't have to get into the rest of the video because this is just going to be based on hooks. But the text hook is, no one gives a shit about your stupid Christian case business with a girl crying. This is perfect. Think of the emotion that this invokes. This is immediately going to make me stop. Not only just visually the girl crying, it's a crying girl. You're going to wonder what the hell is happening. But also, the text hook is perfect. Like we already talked about previously, negative is always going to outperform positive. And this can be another great example of that. I want you to imagine looking at this video, everything was the same, but this girl was sitting here with a big smile on her face, and this text hook was, everybody loves my beautiful Christian case business. It would perform dramatically worse. And the reason behind this is just basic psychology. And that's why you always see the news talk about, horrible things all the time instead of a bunch of positive stuff. Human beings are just naturally more drawn into something negative than positive. Now, don't take this too far and think that every video you make has to be something super sappy and horrible and sad. There's plenty of content out there that performs in that medium sort of plane of not really even being happy or sad. This is just to give you a really good example on why something negative performs so much better than something positive. And the good text and visual hook just so happens to be something negative. Now, let's get into a bad visual and text hook. Pause. Look how just kind of everything looks. The background, it's like, where even am I? I have no idea where this even is. They just put some random plastic bag on the screen. This looks super low quality, super low effort. And then once again, look at this text, how it's down here at the bottom. So now my eyes were just like every other video that I'm normally used to as a viewer, used to seeing that text right here in this area between that, volume button and the power button. I now have to shift my eyes downwards, which, everybody's scrolling on social media. 9 times out of 10, they're doom scrolling. Human beings are naturally lazy. They're going to want something they're used to. They're going to want something that is native to their eyes. So having the text down here, that's another, basically what I just explained is another reason why it almost always makes sense to have your text up here. Now, also, even just outside of the shifting your eyes down, it's also covering up the product or whatever they're trying to visually show. So for all of these reasons, this is super, super unintriguing. Also, look at this text hook. TikTok made me buy it. It cured my girlfriend's anxiety. Not only is that super salesy, which is almost never the route you want to go when it comes to trying to make organic content, selling a product, because remember, keep in mind, we're trying to make ads that are disguised as engaging content or just fun content. So the ploy here is, you never really want to let people know you're selling something until it matters. So maybe at the end of the video, or maybe when you make a CTA. But when you want traction, when you want views, you don't want to, scream at people, hey, this is an ad, I'm trying to sell you something. So just the fact of TikTok made me buy it is in this text hook automatically kills it. And for all those other reasons, it's a bad visual and text hook. Okay, now moving on to progression, which for a long time was one of my best kept secrets. And I'm really one of the only guys that has ever talked about it. And anybody I've ever basically helped with this, or maybe we've been in a call and I've told them about progression, they almost always see their views on average dramatically rise. They start going viral sooner, more often, their average views go up. It's one of the best and first things you want to master outside of your hooks. So what is progression? In a nutshell, it's basically not allowing the viewer to assume what's going to happen next in the video. Now, as an example here, this is actually a really good analogy. I call this my Netflix analogy. I want you to imagine you're about to go start a new show on Netflix. You open the show up and the show starts. All you see are two people sitting in one spot, having one conversation, never moving. This is, 2 seasons full of 30-minute episodes of you're looking at the same people, the exact same background. They're talking about the exact same subject. The camera angle never changes. The background never changes. And you're basically just staring at the same thing 30 minutes, 30 minutes, 30 minutes, 2 full seasons of it. You would turn that shit off, right? 5 minutes in, you say, okay, this is horrible and boring. I'm leaving. This is not entertaining to me at all. This does not engage me at all. And that would be because there's no progression in that show. After about 5 minutes and you realize what's happening, you're going to sit there and say, okay, there's no plot twist coming up. There's nothing crazy about to happen. I know what's going to happen next because this first 5 minutes, this first 10 minutes, they've just been sitting there doing nothing this whole time. So I can just assume I'm going to continue sitting there watching them do nothing and say the same thing over and over again. That is a perfect example of not having any progression. So if you still haven't caught on by what progression is at this point, virtually it's how much you're changing camera angles, changing your background, what you're doing with the product itself, et cetera, et cetera. So the difference between good progression and bad progression, which I'll show you, the actual videos and visual examples in a second. Bad progression would be somebody just basically sitting there. They don't move the camera angle much. They don't move backgrounds much. The video, the product itself isn't doing much. Compared to good progression would be somebody, they start one clip, angles here, and they're at a table. Then the next clip, maybe the angles here, they're at the same table. And then in the third clip, they're in an entire different area with an entire different background with the camera here. So basically, I want you to ask yourself, the next time you go to make a video, how can I make this video as chaotic as possible, but with structure that still makes absolute sense? So when I'm talking about progression, I'm not just meaning, go take a kitchen product, film it in the living room, then the kitchen, and then outside in front of a lake. It still has to make absolute sense for the video concept itself and for the product. But you want to ask yourself, how many different things can you change while it still makes sense? And the best ways to implement progression are going to be, of course, your background. So changing your background, going into a different room, having a different wall behind you. Once again, going back to that kitchen example, maybe you start in front of the sink and then you're at the stove and then you're in front of cabinets that they haven't seen before, et cetera, et cetera. And that is what I would mean by backgrounds, implementing those with progression. Camera angles. This is, some products are going to kind of demand you just sitting at a desk. And that's really, it wouldn't make sense for you to go anywhere else. So the least you could do to add progression is maybe start your visual hook with the camera angle here on your tripod. And then you move on to something else within the video. And then the camera angle is here at the bottom left. And then the camera angle is here. Even though that's not great progression, that's still going to allow you to add some sort of progression. And just think to yourself, just common sense, the difference between you have a product that you can only sit at a desk for. Think about the difference of one camera here and you're just doing whatever the whole time for 10 seconds compared to 4 or 5 2 to 3 second clips of the camera angle here, then over here. Now you're starting to understand why progression matters so much. It's just naturally engaging. It's just naturally making the video more engaging. Also, as a third thing is the product itself. And kind of the best example I can give for this, and I'm pretty sure it's one of the video examples, is a Lego product. So the Lego product going from, just being bricks thrown onto a table all the way to, you show a clip of it being a quarter of the way built, to halfway built, to fully built. That would be progression with the product. Now let's get into some examples of good progression and bad progression. I actually have 2 examples of good progression, but I feel like the best way to start off the examples is to show you what bad progression looks like first. So I want you to notice how this whole video, He does not move anything. The only progression he has is with the product itself, but even that is still minimal. But his camera angle never changes. His background never changes. It's very dull. He's just sitting here the whole time. This is a perfect example of no progression. There was zero progression in this video, besides the product itself, which, like I said, was very minimal. Sitting there the whole time, no different camera angles, nothing. That's boring. You're just staring at the same thing the whole time. There's nothing, which, like I said, he still kind of got off with the product progression itself, but there was nothing overwhelming that sat there and made me say, okay, what's going to happen next? Okay, what's going to happen next? I don't know what's going to happen next. From the first 2 seconds of the video, I could see, okay, these are sunglasses that you can take apart and put stuff in. Pretty simple. At second 4 or 5, I'm leaving. Then you get bad watch time. Then you get bad views and bad engagement. Now let's get into what good progression looks like. So notice how already, we're not even 2 seconds into the video. We got 2 different camera angles going on. We got him doing 3 different things. And now the very next clip is in an entire different area, an entire different background, doing an entire different action. Another camera angle, another camera angle, another camera angle. Now a whole different background, but it still makes sense. Okay, I'm in the garage or my space crafting this item. Now let me go show you it on display with this beautiful background. That makes 100% sense. And then boom, look at that. A whole nother clip showing the product in a whole different angle.
Right on the app, honestly.
That is honestly progression to a T. This video did progression perfectly. Now, here's a great example of, I included this to show you what I mean by product progression. So from the very beginning, sure, he's not changing up a bunch of backgrounds. He doesn't have a bunch of different camera angles, but the product itself has so much natural progression that he can get away with just building the product, even though you'll see later on in the video, he still adds in progression. But that's because when I start watching this, I still, even with the backgrounds and stuff not changing, I'm still sitting there saying, okay, I don't even know what this is, but I know he's building it. There's a buildup coming. What is going to be this final picture? What's going to be the finishing product? I have to see it. And now more progression, a little bit of a camera angle change. Still great product progression. Still don't know what's going on. You still got to know what's happening, what's happening. Holy shit, it's a big, huge thing of Goku. And then more progression with just more angles, which even this video in and of itself, he could have cut this off at like 16 seconds, probably would have helped to watch time, probably would have got it even better views and engagement, but still a great video nonetheless, and showed really good progression. So now really quick, before we move on to the rest of the lesson with controversy, backgrounds, visuals, audios, and even my sort of final bonus module where I'm going to give you a few more tips and tricks outside of the lesson, I want to give everybody watching this video an opportunity to join my Organic Dropshipping Discord. If you really want to master content and actually make it a living from organic dropshipping, or maybe you're a beginner just trying to learn organic dropshipping, this is going to be the very best place you could go. Long story short, we actually shut down the money making committee about 4 months ago, but before we did that, it was number 3 in the world in the e-commerce category of communities that teach dropshipping, with organic dropshipping specifically. The inside of the money making committee has literally every single thing you could possibly ever need to go and make thousands with organic dropshipping, change your life, make a full-time income from organic dropshipping, and also master the art of going viral. Inside, you have all of these different things plus so much more. VIP community chats. We even now have a marketplace where you can buy primed IGs. Weekly calls with me 1 to 2 times a week where I'm reviewing your accounts, reviewing your products, telling you what you should stop doing, what you should start doing, if you should drop a product, what type of content to try, et cetera, et cetera. The opportunities channel where you can hire or get hired creators. You can be a creator for somebody else. You can hire creators. Anything that has to do with organic dropshipping, access to me being active in the community, my A to Z organic dropshipping course, which we're constantly updating monthly now, student case studies, a feedback channel where you can get feedback from me, other coaches inside the MMC, and other advanced organic dropshippers. $85 worth of free subscriptions that you use on a daily basis as an organic dropshipper. So Canva Pro, ChatGPT Plus, NordVPN, CapCut Pro. So literally virtually just by buying VIP, you are virtually saving money. And then of course inside we have real winning products, not like these other Discords that just throw random stuff in there. It's me and MMC's other coaches giving away products that will actually convert and actually go and make you money. Content hook examples, access to all of my personal teams that I use within my own business. So all of my suppliers, you get, my customer support reps for your store, product research VA if you need one, an email marketing specialist if you start doing 10K a month or more. All of my teams that I personally use, plus all of these other super valuable resources and channels I have named off here. So if all of this sounds like something you'd be interested in and you're really ready to start making organic dropshipping work, I'm gonna leave a link to join the money making committee down below in the description of this video. So once you get done watching this video, just click the link down below in the description and I'll see you inside. But now let's move on to the rest of the video. And that's gonna take us to controversy. So in a nutshell, what controversy means for you and me as organic dropshippers, it's basically just a way of manipulating the viewer to engage with a post via comments or shares without them knowing that you're intentionally basically getting them to do it. And a good way to think of it, and really the best way to implement controversy, is just by giving the opportunity for the viewer to feel smart. So some quick examples, maybe something like mispronouncing a word, calling something the wrong thing, even just misspelling a word. There's all kinds of different things you can do, and I have all kinds of examples that we're about to go over. But when it comes to controversy, less is more. You don't want to overdo it, and you never want to make it seem intentional. The more it blends in and seems unintentional, the better. Because, if somebody knows that you're obviously trying to farm engagement, they don't really have that sort of mindset of, oh, I got to look smart. I got to tell them they're wrong. I got to point this thing out because it's just obvious. So really, you do not want your controversy to be obvious. And as I was reading this off, I just realized the presentation got messed up, and this refrain from using large words and keep it short, simple, and to the point was actually meant for hooks. And that's something I completely forgot to go over. So when it comes to hooks, going back to that, refrain from using large words. The average vocabulary is like 3rd grade or something like that. So you never want to use super complicated words, because if people don't understand something, they're not going to be engaged no matter what. You also want to keep it short, simple, and to the point. You never want your hooks to be like 6 lines. It just doesn't make sense. 2 to 3 lines max. But now let's get back into controversy. So there's really a few main ways that you can implement controversy. The first one that we already went over, which is just giving the opportunity for the viewer to feel smart. So mispronouncing a word, calling something the wrong thing, or misspelling a word, or maybe you say something that literally makes it sound like you don't know what you're talking about. And then that gives them the opportunity to prove you wrong, tell you you're dumb, or that they know more, et cetera, et cetera. Another one, this is a bit harder to pull off, but if done correctly, it's a really strong form of controversy, but a funny or good joke. So an inside joke within the niche itself, or adding comedic value to something that isn't naturally funny, but you find some sort of way to actually make it funny. Now, obvious controversy like this only works if it's genuinely funny and unexpected. If you try to do just some silly little joke, it's not gonna do anything. It has to be genuinely funny. Now, the last one, which this one's kind of one of the worst pieces of controversy to use, and you have to do it right. And the only reason I say it's one of the worst is because it's the hardest to make seem less obvious. Now, the reason I say this is one of the worst forms of controversy is 9 times out of 10, it's going to have little to nothing to do with your product. So that can lead to you getting views that aren't going to lead to sales. But it's also one of the hardest to pull off to where it genuinely seems like it's not obvious. But by hidden what the fuck moments, what I mean is something maybe weird occurring in the background, or even a sexual joke. But like I said, this is really one of the worst. It's kind of hard to pull this one off and still convert really well, but it is possible. So those are your 3 types of controversy. Now let's get into examples for good controversy, funny controversy, and bad controversy. Let's start with good controversy. I want to see if you guys spot it. Did you guys see it? So in this video, the controversy he implemented was right here at the end, where you can just barely see it. His foot on the corner of the scale when he's trying to weigh the bracelet to make it seem heavier than it actually is. It's so perfectly well done controversy. It looks like he was trying to finesse the viewers and, obviously hide his foot from it, but he just so happened to accidentally keep his foot in frame. And as you can see here, if we scroll down to the comments, you can see just how good his controversy performed. People who saw his foot in the corner, your hand is on it. And then as you keep going down, you can barely see his foot on the scale in the bottom right corner, et cetera, et cetera. Just think of the difference of him like straight up just having his foot on the scale right in the middle of the camera. There would be so many less people commenting or engaging because it's obvious he's trying to be silly, he's trying to be funny. But the fact that it looks like he genuinely was trying to finesse the viewer and basically hide the fact that he's actually weighing it down, that allowed people to go, oh, I need to call this out. Oh, I need to engage with this and tell him, hey, I saw the foot in the corner, et cetera, et cetera. And this is a perfect example of giving the viewer the opportunity to feel smart. Now, let's move on to funny controversy implemented well. And yes, it is yours truly at my old house in my old studio. Pause right here. This funny little GIF. So I ended up actually, this was a really nice winning concept for this product. Me adding these sort of stickers to the videos themselves. And it's very fitting for the niche. They're used to seeing stuff like this. And it made it make more sense for when I was actually showing the product and then having the character next to it. It's just very fitting for the niche. So once I implemented that and saw it performed well, that's when I went on to split testing, and I split tested controversy within the video itself. And that's where you see basically all I did was I took a video that already performed well and I added good, funny controversy in it, something that's completely unexpected and actually funny. And of course, it also makes sense for the niche, the anime niche. So instead of just putting all the regular characters, I took one of the characters and I found a meme of them basically as a cat. And so boom, I just slipped it in there just like I would any other video and then move right past it. And as you can see with the engagement over here, that controversy worked out really well for me. Just for time's sake, I'm not gonna sift through the comments, but if you were to go look through the comments, there's a bunch of comments saying like, oh, cat Saname, and basically a bunch of people bringing up the cat are like, oh, I saw that. Oh, that doesn't look like Saname, the character's name. So that's really good, funny controversy implemented. So now I want to show you some of the worst controversy that I have ever seen in my life. And this is a perfect example of bad controversy. So, of course, he went for a what the fuck moment with his controversy. My uncle is so creepy for getting me this. She got me this waterproof case for the shower. Uncle, and then he said she, and then obviously the main point, which the whole video is surrounded by controversy, which is definitely not what you want, because you will always, if your entire video is based on controversy, you're always going to go viral for the wrong reasons. And this one's basically his uncle wants him to FaceTime him in the shower. No one that's engaged with this video is going to be sitting here with how overwhelming this insane story is and go, that product looks good. I want to buy it from this person. Not even that. The controversy is so horrible. Who would buy something from this person? Who is looking at this video? Not only, once again, outside of the crazy story, nobody's going to be looking at this saying, oh, I want to buy this product. That's not even on their mind. But even if they were, who would want to buy from somebody so unserious and outrageous? There's not even much explaining I have to do. That is what bad controversy looks like. Do not create content like that. So now let's move on to visuals and background. Now for visuals and background, it's a pretty simple one. You just don't want it to look like shit, and you want it to make sense for your niche or for the product you're running, and it needs to make sense for whatever concept you're going for, and you want it to be as aesthetically pleasing and nice looking as possible majority of the time. So you're gonna wanna be intentional with your backgrounds no matter what. Don't be that person that just starts making videos anywhere and everywhere. Think, just like every other piece of this that goes into creating good content, you wanna be intentional with it. You wanna think about it before you just go and make the video. Think about what would make the most sense on where I'm at, what would look nice in the background to where somebody in the niche would automatically recognize it and then feel like they're watching a video within their niche, et cetera, et cetera. So, buy props and room decor just to make your backgrounds better. It's 100% worth it. Go take $100 or $200, hit up Temu and splurge on, a few $100 worth of decor. It will make your content more engaging. It'll get you more views, no matter what, hands down. It must relate to the product and video concept, which we already went over. It's very simple. You don't want to have a kitchen product outside in front of a lake. You don't want to have a gaming product in the middle of your kitchen. It just wouldn't make sense. So always make it relate to the product and the video concept. And then lastly, before we move on to the examples, you want to make sure everything that the viewer sees needs to satisfy them in some way, whether it's satisfying or, an insanely cool movement or just overall aesthetically pleasing. So now that we're on the topic of visuals, another really great tip that I don't even have written down that I want to give to you guys is when it comes to visuals or just really nice looking videos. I know a lot of you guys will see videos of people almost looking cinematic. You're wondering, how do they get such good, crisp, quality content? How does it look so good? And a big thing that can help you with that might go over some heads, but just really try to think about this. Trust me, it'll help you. Be more confident within your movements. I want you, from here on out, every time you go to make a video, I want you in your mind to basically think of yourself, even if you've only done 10K views lifetime, or if you've done 10 million views or 100 million views lifetime, I want you in your head before you go to make every single video and just sit there and kind of think, I'm the man. I've done hundreds of millions of views. I do this shit like clockwork. I go viral every time I want to. I'm flexing on everybody on their burners that's about to see this video is going to watch this video and be like, holy shit, this guy knows what he's doing. Once you kind of adopt that almost character, you'll automatically notice it in your videos. You'll start moving your hands better. Your movements will look more solid. You'll start doing things that you almost naturally normally wouldn't do. So it's kind of a little bit of a harder thing to explain, but just try it. Trust me, you'll see what I'm talking about. So go into all of your videos from here on out with confidence. Try it out. You'll see what I'm talking about. Now, let's see some good examples and some bad examples of a background and visuals. So we're going to start with bad visuals and bad background as our first example. Boom, automatically. Super dingy mirror. He could have took the 5 seconds to wipe the mirror off. He's in, the dirty bathroom. Just take the 5 minutes to go clean the bathroom, go clean off the mirror. And just doing that alone is going to, 10x the engagement of your video because everything's going to look cleaner and smoother. And it's actually going to be a bit more engaging and make me actually want to stay and watch it. More bad visuals. He's really just randomly doing stuff with the camera. He's not trying to make a cool transition. He's not keeping anything centered. He's kind of here and there everywhere. Like, I just want you guys at home watching this right now to think about, if you were seeing this video as a viewer, think about the difference of what we're seeing now compared to you see him dressed in some nice aesthetic clothing, just some good, nice streetwear or whatever type of clothes he wears other than this. The mirror is cleaned off. The towels aren't hanging up. Everything is nice and clean. There's an actual full roll of toilet paper in the background, and everything is just aesthetically pleasing to the eyes. That in and of itself would make this video more engaging. And then of course, if everything were to stay perfectly centered, not moving a lot, and every time he went to a new clip, he went here or there, it would all go into making the visuals in the background so much better. And it would just naturally, as a human being, make me feel better watching it. And then once again, just more bad visuals. Look at the product. He's way over here. Look at all this dead space. The list goes on and on. So this is a great example of bad visuals and backgrounds. So now let's look at good visuals and backgrounds. This is actually great visuals and backgrounds. Pause. He's sitting here running a product, which is basically like a desk ornament of rims, BBS rims, whatever. But look how just beautiful. He literally went the whole 9 yards. He went into some crazy garage with all these super dope cars. The moment I look at this, if I'm a car guy, which is the guy he's trying to target, I'm saying, oh, this is amazing. This looks aesthetic. I'm immediately recognizing this as this is a video I want to watch. These are the videos I watch because I'm a car guy. Then the movements, of course, super aesthetic. Even just these 3 clips. He went to new variants, but every single clip was almost the exact same, making it super aesthetic. All the transitions were great. Then he did a little slow-mo fast thing right there at the end. Just you watching this at home using common sense, you're looking at this saying, wow, that's super aesthetic, perfectly fitting for the niche. This is the vibe every video that you make should have. So now, before we get to my bonus part here of some more awesome value, let's get into audios and sounds. So no matter what, when it comes to your videos and whatever sound you're using or whatever audio you're using, you're going to want to use a viral sound within your niche by all means necessary. Now, how can you do this if you don't already know? Just for as a quick example, let's say you're running a Hello Kitty product. You'll simply go to TikTok, search Hello Kitty products, Hello Kitty, who knows, like think of any key term that comes to your mind. Hello Kitty slippers, Hello Kitty pajamas, Hello Kitty edits even, who knows, right? Just create all these key terms in your own mind of all things related to Hello Kitty. From there, you're gonna start sifting through all of these videos. You'll find a bunch of Hello Kitty videos. These are all videos within your niche. Your goal is to find big accounts within this niche because that'll make your life even easier. But at the bare minimum, looking through all these videos that pop up from your search, you're going to want to look for videos that have good views, a large amount of views that have went viral. So really a few 100,000 or more views. And you're gonna wanna find videos that have this amount of views and have this amount of virality within the last week to 2 weeks. Then you're gonna click on that sound and save that sound. This is now a viral audio within your niche. You're gonna wanna take that sound and use it on your videos. Do this multiple times over and you will have a handful of viral audios within your niche. And the reason this is so powerful is because what you're doing is you're virtually placing yourself inside of your ideal avatar's niche. If somebody is interested in Hello Kitty, which of course the person you're trying to sell to or get viewers as is interested in Hello Kitty because you're selling a Hello Kitty product, they're going to sit there and watch videos within their niche. When a audio is going viral within their niche, it is much more likely to end up on their For You page. So that's really the biggest reason you're gonna wanna always use a viral audio within your niche is because it basically just shoves you right into your ideal avatar's For You page. Now, when it comes to things outside of using a viral audio within your niche and just audio stuff in general, in a perfect world, you're gonna want every movement and transition perfectly synced to the music. So like, let's say you're doing a product revealing concept. You'd want to actually show and reveal the big wazah or the big part of showing the product on a bass drop or something similar. Let's say you're gonna go transition, right? If, a little beat happen, a certain like beat happens in the sound every 2 or 3 seconds, you would want that transition to happen on that 2 or 3 seconds. So you don't just want to be randomly doing things. When you're editing and then you're matching up the audio to your piece of content, you always want to make it seem as if the audio and video are one. You don't want to be transitioning, then a beat drop, and then this happens, and then this beat happens, and then you reveal the product, and then right after the beat drops, or even worse, the bass drops, and then 2 seconds later, you reveal the product. It'd be very displeasing to the viewer and immediately decrease how engaging the video is. Now, the audio must resonate with the exact same vibe of the video itself. So, if you're doing a crying girl hook or something super sad and sentimental, you're not gonna wanna have some upbeat house music, vibing as you're talking about, your atheist mom just threw out your Christian shoes. Right? Now, the same thing goes for maybe a hype video. Let's use the buildable Goku example that we saw earlier in the lesson. Imagine he were to pull that video off and it was some super sappy, sort of low vibrational, sounds like just literal sad music. It wouldn't make sense. It would automatically make the video less engaging and it wouldn't make sense. So always match the vibe of the video to the audio, or vice versa, of course. But at the very least, use an audio related to your niche or product. So if you can't find a viral one, no matter what, you'll be able to find an audio some way, somehow within your niche. And at the very least, use that. Don't be the guy that creates videos, he does everything out of order, and then he randomly just puts the most random sound ever on a random concept. Always, always, always be intentional with all of these things that we went over today. So now, before the final tidbits of sauce, we're gonna go over a good and bad example of audios. First, bad example. Now, I think we will have to mute these for copyright purposes on YouTube, but what's happening in this video right now is Paint the Town Red by Doja Cat. It's like, bitch, paint the town red, blah, blah, blah. Regardless, you don't even need to hear it to understand that makes no sense for this product. It's literally, they made this video and then they just put some random audio over it. Now, what would have made more sense? Maybe if he did a little bit of niche research, maybe did some niche research on college students and the studying niche and the education niche, and he found some sort of aesthetic audio that played in the background. Like, there are some videos that come to mind where people are like, oh, come study with me. And it's just showing them, writing a bunch of notes and all this bullshit. Finding a video like that that's went recently viral and then using that audio would have made so much more sense. Now, let's get into the use of good audio. Now, once again, probably can't hear this sound, but what I did in this video was I went and found a video of an edit of Demon Slayer, which is really common in the anime niche. They make all these like different edits and have all these cool sounds over them. And it was just then going viral. It was like 500K or 1 million views, and it was posted like 2 days ago. I immediately went, saved that sound, and then used it for this video, perfectly using a viral audio within my niche. Then, of course, just like all the other audio and sound things, perfectly on the beat drop of that sound is when I pulled the sword out, boom, it beat dropped. And then all the way down to the next beat is when I went to this scene. And then the next sort of like 808, boom, I went to this scene. And that is how you perfectly execute good use of audio. So now to finish this off, let's get into the final tidbits of sauce. And the first thing I want to talk about is selling the vibe, which I made a video on this in the past. It went over so many heads. People were like, oh my God, I have no idea what you're talking about. It's a concept that's a little bit harder to explain, but once you do understand what selling the vibe is, it will immediately increase your views, your engagement, and just make you a better content creator overall. And basically, in a nutshell, what selling the vibe is you're manipulating the consumer / force feeding it a false emotion that makes them view the product as much greater than it actually may be when they own it. And a great example I can have for that is, I want you to imagine this example that we use for the audio here, me showing the sword, and look how amazing everything looks. Really cool TV with the anime happening in the background. Super aesthetic studio. I'm moving my body super cool. When I pull the sword out, I did all these different edits of like, certain adjustments within the temperature and the color. I dimmed the lights down. I had the product at this perfect angle to make the product look as good as it possibly could. I then started swinging it in this really cool way with even cooler stuff in the background, all this LED stuff, just all of these things that are selling the vibe. Now, I want you to imagine I did this exact same thing, exact same video, exact same audio, exact same movements, everything, but instead I was in a trailer park or a trap house with food laying around, trash on the floor, clothes on the floor, lights stayed on the whole time, no LEDs, nothing. think about the viewer's perception of the video and the product itself. Think about the difference compared to if I was, at the trap house, the really just nasty whatever house, compared to this super aesthetic vibe. Watching this one, I'm automatically, unconsciously as a viewer, associating the product and the video itself at a higher value. Therefore, of course, leading to much more engagement and later down the line, much more sales compared to making or basically putting the product in a bad light just by having it in a different background in a different area and not focusing on key things like lighting and product positioning. That is the best way I could describe selling the vibe. Now, also another thing I want to mention, it's all of the tiny things collectively that make a viral video. Okay, not just, a good visual background or maybe a good piece of controversy or maybe you do progression right. It's every single one of these little tiny things we went over in this whole lesson put together each and every video that make a good piece of content in a viral video. Now, another thing I'm gonna go over is you wanna make sure your content is appropriate for your target audience. I see this being one of the biggest mistakes, especially for beginners. You'll go out there and you'll run a product that has a demographic or a niche of, let's say, older adult women, like 35 to 40. Maybe it's a baby product or just simply a product that, the demographic is older women. But then you'll go out there and you'll use some like bass boosted anime sound and use some sort of hook that's like, oh, please no hate guys, with the sad tear emoji. Just this very childish content for a demographic of people that would never engage with this in the first place. So not only are you not going to get the proper views from your ideal avatar, which leads to no sales, because if you're making content that they don't normally see anyway, it probably won't end up on their For You page. And if it does, they're going to scroll right past it because you're basically alienating them, which means they do not feel connected or attached or resonate with the video. So they're immediately just going to scroll on by. But what you're also doing is going to be attracting an audience that doesn't want the product. So even if you do go and get views, you won't make any sales. And this next one's for my beginners mainly, but in the beginning, you're going to want to copy what works. So literally copying your competitors one of one, and over time, you're going to let that feed your original ideas. It's really hard, especially as a beginner, to just start coming up with video ideas off the top of your head. It's basically like trying to make up a new color that doesn't exist. Try to. It's virtually impossible. Same sort of thing goes for content. But once you put in enough reps, whether you're copying, taking inspiration, whatever the case may be, over time, you will just naturally get good at everything we went over in this lesson. And over time, you'll just start to naturally come up with your own ideas just from creating content in general, taking inspiration from here, then taking inspiration from this. Then you start going from copying everything one of one to, okay, now you try your own original twist that nobody's ever had before, but maybe you're copying a video and you change one little thing that's an original idea from you. And over time, you keep doing this. Slowly over time, as you get better and better, your content will become more and more original. Because sure, copying what works can get you views, even though it's a lot harder than it used to be back in the day. Back in the day, you could just straight up copy your competitor one of one, go just as viral as them, and then be printing sales and views. But it just doesn't work that way anymore. So the sooner you can start to make your own original content, the better, because you'll start getting more views, more engagement, and making more sales. And then lastly, stop making your videos look like ads. You have to remember, we are not making ads. You cannot be greedy and just think, oh, I'm going to make this video and I want sales. I need sales. I want sales. And I'm going to say 50% off. Go get it from this website. TikTok shop made me buy it. Oh, look at this perfect thing with a brand name that nobody even knows and you're using your store name that you just made up. It's not going to make you any sales because you're only going to get 200 views. Okay, you have to always keep in mind, we are making ads disguised as engaging content. The sales will come, but only after you actually get views. So stop making your videos look like ads. Now, with that being said, don't forget, guys, if you're interested in joining the Money Making Committee, my Organic Dropshipping Discord, I'm going to leave a link down below in the description of this video for you to join. But that is going to conclude our complete content masterclass for today's video. I hope everybody enjoyed it and got a lot of value out of this. If you have any questions, as always, leave them in the comments down below. I try to respond to as many as I can, but that's going to wrap up today's lesson. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff. But that's going to wrap up today's lesson, and I'll see you guys on the next one.